Hey there, welcome to episode 76 of the Social Business Engine podcast. This is the podcast where I invite leaders from brands across all industries who are excited to share with you how they use social media in their business strategy. I'm Borges, CEO of Find and Convert, and your host of the Social Business Engine podcast. On this episode, you're going to meet Michael Gerard. Michael is the CMO of Curata. Curata is a recognized leader in providing software that empowers marketers to scale their content marketing supply chain through content creation, curation, and analytics. On this episode, we're going to discuss the challenge that all marketers face with content marketing. And that challenge is that marketers are no longer just marketers. They're now publishers too, responsible for producing huge amounts of content, not just in quantity, but also relevant content that gets discovered, content that is engaging, and ultimately content that is a contributor to revenue in a way that's measurable through analytics. Now that is a tall order for all marketers, and we're going to tackle this topic on this episode. So buckle up, because this episode is going to challenge your thought process on content marketing. Now, this episode is sponsored by Vanilla Forums, creators of a popular online community platform used by companies to build private online communities on your website. We're publishing a social business journal issue with Vanilla that's titled The Community Playbook. This guide provides all the information that you need to get your online community started and to keep it engaged. If you're subscribed by email to get our weekly podcast episode, which we send every Friday, you'll be notified when we publish this journal. Now, if you're not subscribed to our weekly updates, you can get subscribed by texting SBE Show to 38470. Once again, text SBE Show to 38470. And of course, if you're on a desktop right now, you can just as easily subscribe by hitting our subscribe page at socialbusinessengine.com. And now, here's my interview with Michael Gerard from Curata. Michael, welcome to the Social Business Engine podcast.
Thanks, Bernie. Very excited to be here with you.
Terrific. Well, Michael, as I said in the introduction, marketers have a huge challenge. They're living in this content-driven landscape. They're responsible for producing content every day, not just content, but great content. But, Michael, most marketers don't have the time, the staff, or the budget, and maybe in some cases the know-how to publish content at this rate. And that's where content curation comes in. So why don't we begin our discussion with a little bit of, what is content curation?
Great question, Bernie. And I think you nailed it in terms of the real source of content curation, where it comes in, and the value that it has to contribute to content marketing, right? So like you said, you think about the average content marketing team, they have a budget, most of them, and they're trying to create as much content as they can that's quality and relevant. But like you said, you have some challenges with respect to, do we have the best team in place to create great content on a consistent basis? And then there's the other side of the coin, which is, your audience. You want to connect with them as in the best manner possible and really attract their interest. And so as great as your content might be, they want other perspectives from out there. And so curation offers an opportunity to really address both of those areas. Maybe if it helps more formally. And so I spent a number of years at IDC before, so market research firm. So I think a lot about definitions. But so as we look at curation, we say it's when an individual or a team is finding, organizing, and hitting and sharing content. So an individual, so it is a human being involved. It's not aggregation of content. It focuses on the most relevant, highest quality stuff. And it's specific for your target market.
I'm glad that you went there, because I was actually going to ask you to define curation, because honestly, when I think of curation outside the context of content marketing, I think of the museum. And I think that's a pretty common sort of perception of what curation is. So what you're saying, Michael, if I understand correctly, just to really put that definition, give it a good foundation for this discussion, is that it's really about the marketers being able to discover and source content, curate content that they can then use in their content marketing mix?
Absolutely. So it's a chance for you to bring in other experts' commentary that will be complementary to your own created content, right? So not as much now, but in my earlier years at Curata, there were some folks that would be like, well, curation is not a good it's not a good replacement for created content, and they were right. And as it stands today, that curation is an opportunity to complement your own created content, to tap into your ecosystem of experts in your industry, your customers, your audience, to support your own thought process, demonstrate your own thought leadership, and might even be to provide an alternate viewpoint, to what you've been talking about, and that ends up ultimately engaging your audience to a greater extent.
Okay. Now, Michael, one of the reasons, and there were several, but one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on my podcast here is because Curata, you guys at Curata have this awesome ebook that's titled The Ultimate Guide to Content Curation. And of course, I'm going to link that up in our show notes on our website at socialbusinessengine.com. So I'd like to kind of walk through some of the highlights of the ebook. And I know it's about an 80-page ebook, so all we can really do is kind of hit some of the key points. But one of those is the notion that content curation is a good idea because it addresses the new buyer 2.0. So do you want to elaborate on that?
Yes, certainly. So, I think most of us are familiar with the idea of this buyer's journey. And there's no doubt that over the past 15 or so years, things have changed pretty drastically. I always like to quote this, Serious Decisions, a couple other firms have mentioned this, right? There's 70% or more of a buyer's decisions made but before they even speak to your sales rep, right? So there's lots of ways that your buyers can get information. They're getting lots of that information before they even enter the formal buying process, right? But unfortunately, as a marketer, right, lots of our buyers, our audience, they're overwhelmed by lots of low quality content. It's not relevant content. And so there's this chance with this new buyer 2.0, they're looking for information. They want to learn. They want to be educated. As a chance for us as vendors, as marketers, to step in and help educate them. And, as part of that process, you're building their trust. You're learning from them. They're learning from you through created content, and you're exposing them to the best that the market has to offer for knowledge as well through curation.
Okay. And one of the things that you guys at Curata talk about is the content marketing pyramid. And because that's a visual, and my plan, Michael, is to include that visual in our show notes. So my listeners know that they can find that on our show notes page. But can you kind of paint the visual by explaining what you mean by the content marketing pyramid, and also from a context standpoint, how that fits into, the content curation ultimate guide, if you will?
Yeah, certainly. So I'd probably say for about 2 or 3 years now here at Curata, we've been working with a framework, this content marketing pyramid that really helps us put a strategy to our content and our content marketing process. And it helps to make sure that, we stay focused on, what content we produce. It improves our production capacity, and ultimately it helps us have a better stream of content for our blog, our newsletter, our website, resources page, and even our social channels. To paint the picture for you, Bernie, if you envision a pyramid with 5 different levels, and at the top of the pyramid, this is where you're creating the large piece of content. Very similar to Jason Miller over at LinkedIn mentioning his Big Rock, right? So this is our big piece of content at the top here, or it's the turkey, right, with the turkey parts.
Right. The turkey
primary
dinner.
Research, secondary research, thought leadership, surveys, interviews. You create that big ebook, and so let me bring in this ultimate guide to curation. That's for the example. That's our big piece of research at the top there, right? The level 1 at the top. It's gated. We have the very large piece, highly valued piece gated on our resources page. And then as you move down the pyramid, it gets wider as you move down. You atomize that large piece of content. So that large piece of content is your intellectual property. Okay, and so as you move down, you'll create a long form blog post, 1,000+ words. You'll create presentations used for webinars. You'll continue to move down, create infographics, slide shares. You move down into lower levels, short form posts. You'll put posts on other folks' blogs, contributed content. And ultimately, you'll have social media posts, which is more the promotional part of the pyramid. And so the idea here is all these lower levels of the pyramid, there are opportunities to provide more bite-sized content and value for your audience, free, right? So not gated, either in your owned property, earned media, or even paid media. And it helps draw people in. It helps increase their interest. It's a chance to reuse and repurpose all that content, that investment you put into the top of the pyramid. And so it's more low effort. It's more often. And then it drives people upwards into that top of the pyramid, right? So it's part of the lead generation and the lead nurturing process for an organization. Mm-hmm. And that's just our Ultimate Guide to Curation ebook. So we'll have anywhere from 3 to 5 of these content marketing pyramids going on at any one time over a 6-month period, supporting our overall marketing strategy.
Okay, so if I understand that correctly, then, Michael, you, as a brand, and of course, Curata as a brand, like any other brand, you develop your content strategy and your editorial strategy, and you create those big rock topics. You decide what they're going to be, and then you put them on the calendar spread out over time, because each one takes some time from the big rock standpoint. And then once you've got the big rock, you, as you say, atomize it. I love that. You atomize it so that you get as many turkey slices, to use Jason's analogy, out of it. And then you basically stretch the life of that content over some span of time. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So we'll shoot for we'll start one pyramid each quarter, and then
quarterly.
Yeah, that's right. And each individual pyramid will last anywhere from 4 to 6 months, and we'll track the analytics along the way. The impact on engagement, marketing, or sales pipeline, and determine what's working, what's not, and we'll shift the levers accordingly.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about that measurement, because I teed that up in the introduction that marketers are not only publishers now, but they have to produce great content that engages, but also contributes to revenue in a way that's measurable. So what are you seeing at Curata as you work with brands, I'm sure across many different industries? What are the successful brands that are really killing it with content marketing? How are they measuring? What kind of things are they measuring? What are the success factors in measuring how they do content marketing and the contribution that curation has had?
Yeah, so a bunch of questions in there. So let me start off with the first part. So the content marketing measurement. And it's come a long way over the past several years, and I think it's got a long way to go. It's for any marketer out there, it's not easy to answer the question of, hey, how many leads has this individual piece of content generated, and then what about a group of content pieces, right? So in our terminology, if you finish a pyramid and create 12 pieces of content, how many leads did that content program or pyramid generate? Mm-hmm. And so as we think about content marketing metrics, I split it up into 2 categories. One is your more familiar operations metrics, right? Which is, how much content I'm producing, how often does it come out, and how much does it cost me, et cetera. And so that's operations. Then you have performance metrics. And so this is where we get into, what's more common today, the top of the funnel metrics. That's the page views, it's the shares, the likes. It's more the vanity metrics. Mm-hmm. And diving a bit deeper in engagement, the real sort of next gen from a whole market perspective is the middle and bottom of the funnel stuff, right? This is where it gets fun, which is what's the impact of individual and group pieces and groups of content on marketing's pipeline, right? So leads generated, leads nurtured. And then even in sales pipeline, what's the impact of individual piece of content or groups of content on sales opportunities, right? How much of sales pipeline are you influencing from a content perspective? And I think that's, as you get to those deeper level metrics, pulling in data from multiple sources, that's when it really gets valuable. And we're doing a lot of that stuff across our created content as well as our curated content.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the impact on sales pipeline, I'm sure, is it's a metric that's of great interest to a lot of brands. But I wonder, though, is it any different to measure that between a B2B brand versus a B2C brand? Have you had any experience with that?
Yes, certainly. You're right. Big differences there. So, from a B2C perspective, certainly you're looking a lot more at the awareness side for marketing as a whole, right? So, B2B as a B2B marketer, I'm constantly thinking about, lead generation and nurturing my pipeline and helping sales get the leads that they need. And then, shifting from the B2C side, you're certainly marketers a lot more disconnected from the revenue actually happening, unless you're talking e-commerce, right, where the transactions happen, online. Especially, and also if you have a distribution channel for a B2C organization, then you're much more separated. So I think, yeah, there's some key differences. A lot of it gets to on content marketing measurement for B2B. You're talking more leads, you're talking more sales opportunities, versus the B2C side is more in the awareness side, I would say. But I would say I have a more of a tend to strengthen B2B. So that'd be sort of my take on it.
Sure. And I would agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Okay. There's another element of curation that I want to chat about a little bit here. And you guys are doing it, and you're doing it really well. And that's you're getting contributed content. You're curating content from contributors to your blog. And I bring that up because I'm an example of that. You recently provided me the opportunity, and I would say the privilege, of contributing a blog post to the Curata blog. And if I could just put a plug in for that, my post was about podcasting and why content marketers at brands should consider podcasting. So, no secret, I'm a big fan of podcasting, and I think that more content marketers at brands should embrace podcasting. But I digress a little bit. The reason I bring it up, Michael, is because that is a part of your curation strategy. And so maybe you can remark on that, on how you guys do it, and kind of give some advice on how brands can embrace contributed content as part of curation.
Yes, certainly. And thanks, Bernie. You did a great job in providing the content for that post we just put out. It's a content marketer's guide to podcasting. And there are a number of reasons we go about doing that, right? And I think the first one, and sort of the foundational element, is we think about that the owned, earned, and paid media. And so our owned media, right? That's our website, our blog, our microsite, et cetera. And we want to reach out to the community, to I mentioned this earlier, to our ecosystem of experts that are out there. And so we saw you as being in that ecosystem, right? And being an expert from a content marketing perspective, an agency perspective, a podcasting perspective. And so as we reach out, we think, hey, it'd be great to curate some of Bernie's stuff. And go even deeper than that and reach out to you and say, hey, would you like to contribute content to our own blog? And so it's an opportunity for us. Number one is to share some expertise with our audience, right? Because ultimately, what we're doing through our content marketing strategy is we want to educate our audience. We want to add value to their lives, to their profession. And ultimately, and this is our mission at Curata, through our products or even our marketing, is to help content marketers be more successful at what they do, right? So we bring you in, we offer the opportunity for you to provide that post. We put it up there, and really you're part of a content marketing pyramid for us, right? Because you have that blog post, and we bring it in, and what we do at that point is we within your actual post, we'll have some links to our own stuff in addition to your stuff. We'll do some social media, so we'll curate from your post and do some social curation and get it out there. And so it helps you, right? Because your name's on there, and we have good attribution and some link backs to your site for SEO and recognition. And it helps us because we want to connect more with our audience, and we want to make sure that our owned media provides as much value as possible to them.
Yeah, and you brought in an outsider like myself, and now I'm part of the process too, because I'm also promoting that content. And so it's win-win all the way around for sure. And it also gives you a sense for what content resonates with your audience and what kind of contributors, do you want to bring me back or not? Do you want to get other contributors that can also bring in contributed content on a specific topic? So as you're measuring, it gives you that opportunity. And I think the main point, Michael, that I want to make for my listeners is that, hopefully that provides a little bit of insight, maybe even some inspiration to go out and get contributors. And if you're already getting contributors to your blog, then terrific. Think about ways that you can expand that. Think about ways that you can even segment that. And that leads me to something else that you guys talk about. You really take the science of the content marketing pyramid to another level. I mean, it's really, it's scientific the way you guys have approached it. And you guys talk about the levels of your content marketing pyramid where you've got three levels: core content, what you call derivative assets, and then promotional and micro content. And so I wonder, maybe you can kind of speak to how do you simplify that? How do you get that educational across to, or that educational material across to the people that you're reaching in a way that they can really embrace that and then take some action on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. And as we developed the model over the years, we put a bit more science to it. As you mentioned, we have 5 levels overall, but we split it into 3 different levels in order to simplify it. And as we're looking at these different levels, we also added points to it, right? So that you could assign how many points you're going to have for creation of content in a pyramid and then track the operational metrics with it. So it's a good, simple framework at the high level with the 5 levels and atomize your big piece of content at the top. But then to really make it more functional, in your organization, you got to dive deeper. And so what we did, we did a post on it on this pyramid years ago, and we've been developing it over the years and using it internally. We built it into our own content marketing platform, and also as a result of that had to make sure we're more scientific about it. And about 3 months ago, we said, how are we going to communicate to folks what this is? Because we're really bought into it and heard some great feedback from our customers. So we created an actual ebook, a white paper for the pyramid. And so it may sound a little confusing, but we created a content marketing pyramid for our pyramid topic. And right at the top of that pyramid is a big honking ebook that talks about what the pyramid is.
So the big rock for the pyramid. Okay. Yeah. Terrific. All right. And Michael, maybe this is putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'll take that chance. What are you seeing as common denominators in the success factors from those brands that are being successful, enjoying success with content marketing using a curated approach?
Yeah, so if you look at different companies out there and what they're doing and what works and what's not, there's no question that there are lots of big brands out there that are curating. And if you're out in the audience and think, well, I haven't really curated much, and think, have you published a best of post? Have you commented on or shared a link on Twitter or even pasted a link to Facebook with your commentary? And so those are all, acts of curation. And so as I look across different companies, certainly, we have hundreds and hundreds of clients that are really small companies that are using it very successfully. And, Vern Global and, other smaller companies out there. And then we have larger ones, like IBM and SAP that are using it. I think it's always nice to give a specific example for folks to sink their teeth into. So let me pick a smaller company, which I think would be good. There's a company called Vern Global. And what they do is they operate a data center based in Iceland, right? So they
Really?
Yeah, I love this stuff because I'm a former chemical engineer, but they use geothermal power for their energy source, right? So lower cooling costs.
Have you been there? Have you visited this data center?
Not yet, but I'm striving to do that. I'm asking them if I can get on site there and interview them. I'd like to do that.
In December.
Yeah, right. So, they had a big challenge, right? When they first started up, they wanted to, build their brand equity and build their client base, but they had a shoestring budget and few staff. And so what they decided is that they were going to create a microsite. They're going to build this news and this opinion site to establish Vern Global as this leader in green data centers. So they created the site. It's called greendatacenternews.org. And their head of sales and marketing did it. And she said, you know what? We're going to create some content and we're going to curate content. So, so they used our solution. They scoured the internet for content and added insight to that content and published small abstracts, snippets, right to this greendatacenternews.org. And were really, really successful because they built trust with their audience. Folks from all over the world, found them through Google because there's a great SEO juice with the curation and creation of this microsite. And it quickly became this hub for up-to-the-minute IT energy efficiency information, right? Thousands of hits each week and, high organic search results. I think they had about 15, 20% of referral traffic into their own Vern Global site from this greendatacenternews.org. So lots of really good success over the years through this combined creation and curation strategy.
That's a great example, Michael. Thank you so much for sharing that. I just want to make sure that I get the spelling right for our show notes. Is that Vern, V as in victory?
Yep, that's correct. VERNE, Vern Global, and their site's greendatacenternews.org.
Okay, great. And again, we will link that up in our show notes. So I appreciate you sharing that example. All right, so what I want to do before I segue to my one thing question, I want to kind of sum up some key points that we've covered here today. We started out talking about how today's marketer has a huge challenge because they have to be more than a marketer. They have to be a publisher, and they have to produce great, relevant content that has an impact on revenue and that's measurable. So we talked about what is curation. We defined it. We talked about how basically part of the definition is, you get other experts to provide content. And then we talked about the pyramid, the content marketing, content curation pyramid, actually the content marketing pyramid, and how you start at the top with a big rock piece of content and then atomize that down and then share that over a span of time and do that perhaps, once a quarter, and then of course measure the impact of all of that content. And I like the fact, Michael, that you distinguish between operations metrics, how long does it take to produce content, what are the costs, versus performance metrics, combinations of vanity as well as just impact on sales pipeline. Then we talked about success factors and how those brands that are succeeding are basically very intentional. They're very strategic about their curation process. And then you wrapped it all up with a beautiful big bow by sharing the Vern Global story and what they're doing with greendatacenter.org. That's a fantastic example, Michael. Thank you so much for that example. Again, that'll be linked up in the show notes. Anything you want to add to that summary?
No, I just mentioned it's greendatacenternews.org, and I think that's a really good summary. Way to bring it together, and like I said, we try to eat our own dog food, so to say, at Curata, and use a lot of this creation and curation. And I got to say, we've not only learned it from trials and tests over the years, but learned a lot from our own customers and experts like you as we're going about this content marketing activity.
Terrific. Well, Michael, let's now segue to my one thing question. And Michael, this is where I ask you, if there's any one thing that you could change about the way that business is conducted today, what would that be?
Yeah, so broad question. And as a marketer at Curata and been sort of steeped in content marketing the past couple of years, and even at IDC before that, doing lots of content marketing related things, I'd say as I look at organizations, the key thing that I would love to see is that more and more organizations get the opportunity here that's being presented to us with content marketing, right? It's I'm hearing less and less of it now, but in the earlier years, when I mentioned content marketing, I'd hear folks indicate, "Oh, content marketing, we've been doing that for years," and I'd be like, "Yeah, you have been creating content for years, but it's not this non-egocentric, very, very personal educational content for your audience." And many of these companies have, if not tens, sometimes hundreds of content producers and experts in their organizations, such as product, solution, or industry marketers. And so if these businesses could harness the great expertise and knowledge that they have in their company and bring that to their audience in a more educational manner, in a less sort of product and company specific way, I think it would go a long way to really, really engage their audience, to build trust with their audience. And when the point gets right and you get to that initial stage of the buyer cycle and the middle stage where they want to learn more about their product, certainly include that as part of your content marketing, but make sure you're approaching and developing the right content and approaching that entire buyer's journey and helping folks out with content along that way. So I'd probably say that would be sort of my key thing, and that comes from the heart as somebody that's really sort of deep in this content marketing industry.
Mm-hmm. Well said, Michael. One of the things that I've said for years, I have a presentation that's titled "Making the Leap from Social Media to Social Business," and there's 5 pillars, and one of those pillars is marketing is not a department. And the point behind that is that, as you just said, there's so much expertise within an organization among the rank and file of the employees who have domain expertise. And as you said, tap into that expertise and produce content from that expertise, because that's the content that your buyer in their journey wants to consume.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
So terrific. All right, fantastic. Well, Michael, before I segue into my closing remarks here, where would you like to send people online to learn more about you and Curata?
Certainly. So feel free to link with me on LinkedIn. You can reach me at Michael Gerard, Gerard, and just put a note in there of where you heard this from. Mention Bernie's podcast. And you can definitely reach out to me through Twitter at Michael Gerard once again. And please do reach out. Love connecting with folks out there and talking about content marketing.
Terrific. And everyone knows that that'll be linked up in our show notes. So for those that are mobile right now, just hit our show notes page. So Michael Gerard, CMO of Curata, thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom here today on content marketing and the art and science of curation. And Michael, I want to remind everyone that this episode is sponsored by Vanilla Forums, creators of a popular online community platform that's used by companies to build private online communities right there on your website. We are publishing a Social Business Journal issue that's titled The Community Playbook, and this guide is going to provide all the information needed to build an online community and how to get started and how to keep people engaged. Anyone that is subscribed to receive our weekly podcast through email will get the notification when we publish this journal, but you've got to be subscribed. So if you're not subscribed, if you are, then you're going to get it. If you're not, then what you can do is you can just text SBE Show to 38470. Again, SBE Show to 38470, and that will get you subscribed. Or you can just hit our subscribe page at socialbusinessengine.com. And before we sign off here today, I do like to remind everyone, if you have not written a review in iTunes or Stitcher for the Social Business Engine podcast, I would love for you to do that. I really would appreciate that, because reviews go a long way toward just helping other people learn about this podcast and discover it. And I do always enjoy hearing from people, just as Michael, via Twitter at Bernie Borges. We're also at SB Engine. We use the hashtag SBE Show. Surprise, surprise. And just like Michael said, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, by all means, Bernie Borges, and do send a note to let me know that you listened to the podcast and that's how you found me. So that is it. Remember to visit our show notes page where we'll have links to everything that Michael and I discussed here today. And if you do have a social business story that actually you want to share on this podcast, either your brand or a brand that you know, then just either tweet me up at Bernie Borges or just hit our website and our contact page and just drop me a note there, and we will definitely check that out. So, hey, that's going to do it for this episode. Until next time, this is your host, Bernie Borges of Find and Convert, wishing you continued success on your social business journey.